Loud. Welcome, everybody, to the Public Speaking for Democracy March on Harrisburg course. It is Wednesday, April 30th at noon, and whenever and wherever you're watching this, we tried to make this one as evergreen as possible, so this presentation should still be good for years to come. This is going to be a practical supportive session on how to speak publicly about our movement and the fight for democracy. There is a lot that we're not going to be able to get to today. This could be a year-long course. We're going to be doing a general overview of a couple public speaking themes, and we will definitely be doing follow-ups to this one as well. Before we dive in and get to that next slide, I just want to note as well, that public speaking is for everybody. A lot of people think that public speaking is reserved for those who are good at it, those who seem naturally talented to do it. That's absolute nonsense. Everybody here has a voice, and public speaking is something that you can train yourself in. It's a skill, just like riding a bicycle, just like anything else, just like cooking a lasagna. Public speaking is something you can learn. It's something you can practice. It's a craft that you can hone and get better at over time. There's a certain amount of tips and tricks and just kind of ways to approach it, just like there are for any other skill. And even if this is something that comes hard to you, even if this is something that seems difficult, I encourage you to just push through and persevere. And of course, you're already doing that by coming to this class. One other thing to note, and well done, everybody. One other thing to note is that there's sometimes a fear of public speaking. There's an old joke that people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death. You know, at their own funeral, they'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. Uh, please don't feel intimidated by this. We all have a voice. We can all speak. We all have something to say, and we're here to learn how to stand and deliver. So first, who we are, of course, March on Harrisburg is an anti-corruption, pro-democracy, nonpartisan, statewide, volunteer-driven organization. We've been fighting for over 8 years to make bribery illegal in Pennsylvania and build a democracy of, by, and for we the people. Woo! These are our goals for today. We're going to learn how to write, stand, deliver, and grow. These are the 4 buckets of our work today. Writing a speech. So this is your first thing, right? When you're going to public speak, what are you going to say? Highly encourage writing out a speech. Going off the cuff is something that you can do once you're more trained and polished, once you have a lot more experience. But initially, and really for every public speaking event you do, writing a speech is the way to do it. Oftentimes, when you're giving a speech, you are being overwhelmed by emotion. You might be a little distracted. You might lose your place. You might lose your words. It's just good to have it written down in front of you. So we're going to talk about writing that speech. First, how much time do you have? That'll dictate how long your speech is going to be. Some people 3 minutes a page, some people 4 minutes a page. Time yourself. Time yourself after you've written your speech. Time yourself when you're writing your speech, just so you know, okay, how long does it take me to get through half a page? Okay, then work from there, right? Have a sense of length and time, and don't go over. Nobody likes a long speech. Nobody likes a long speech. Hit your marks, hit your time. What is your setting? Are you speaking outside or inside? Is it cold? Is it raining? Is it windy? How many people are you talking to? Right? Know your setting, know where you're going to be, right? Do you have a microphone? Do you have a bullhorn? Is it just going to be your natural speech? Are there 10 speakers? Are you the only speaker? Know everything you can about where you're speaking, and that will help inform what you're going to say. For example, if you're speaking outside of Philadelphia City Hall and it's 30 degrees and windy outside, keep it on the shorter side. Okay, it's cold. People don't want to be out there so long. If it's 97 degrees and it's July and you're on the Capitol steps, same deal, right? If you're in the Capitol, it's not windy. You can have a little more patience and calm as you deliver too. You're not going to be distracted by the elements. Knowing your setting is important. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? What do they like? What are their values? What do they dislike? What do they need to hear? Mix up your message, mix up your speech for whoever your audience is. You're going to give different speeches to, let's say, a crowd of Trump voting Republicans versus a crowd of Kamala Harris voting Democrats. You're just going to use different words. You're going to have different goals with what you want to accomplish. Your speech is going to be different whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people, right? So knowing your audience, who is there, is very important. You want to sketch that out and be thinking, how do I want to speak to my audience directly? Right? What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish in your speech? What do you want people to leave knowing or feeling or thinking, right? What do you want to convey to them? How do you want to speak to their head? How do you want to speak to their heart? What are you trying to get them to do? Right? What is the purpose of you speaking? You're not just there to fill time. You're never there to fill time. Okay. This is not cable news. You're not just there to squawk. You're there to convey a message, and you often have a limited time to do it, and you need to do it efficiently and thoroughly and hit your marks. Right. So this leads us to the next point. Whoops, sorry, go back one. Um, what are your messaging marks? What are the messaging marks you want to hit? What marks, and you have to make sure that you get to them, right? So what are your goals and what are those key points that you want to get to? Okay, thank you, Audrey. Let's go to the next one. This is a messaging formula. This can be helpful when you're crafting a speech, especially about democracy. And again, this is being recorded, and all the slides and everything will be sent out afterwards. So if you don't get all this down, it's okay. You'll come back and review and go at your own pace. So this is just a simple messaging formula, starting with a shared value, where everybody agrees, right? Where your audience agrees with you. Everybody deserves a voice in our democracy. Government should work for all of us, not just the wealthy few. Billionaires and large corporations are buying up our elections and political process, right? You want to kind of just get your thesis statement right out there right away. This is what I believe in. And also, I think it's what you believe in too. And that's why we're talking about it together here today. Describe the problem. Describe the problem. Don't shy away from it. You are there to solve a problem, to give people an action step to address a problem. You have to describe the problem. You cannot cure a disease without naming the disease. You have to diagnose the problem before you can cure it. Another way to think of this is the nightmare. That's how Dr. King phrased this part of the speech. He used to call it the nightmare, and if you follow the nightmare with the dream. But you want to give an accurate telling of the problem, an accurate diagnosis of the nightmare, of the problem, of the threat. Currently, our political system is dominated by big money, allowing special interests to drown out the voice of the people. Right now in Pennsylvania, lobbyists can legally give lawmakers unlimited gifts, wining and dining, sports tickets, trips to Europe. That's not democracy, that's bribery, right? Name the threat, name the threat. We, the people, are separated from the decisions that govern our lives through unlimited campaign contributions, unlimited gifts, unlimited super PAC spending, unlimited side jobs, right? Name the threat itself. And in this part too, put a story in there. Don't hit people over the head with too many facts and bits of information. But when you're talking about the threat, use metaphor, use story, use simple emotional terms. And then you want to have your call to action, your conclusion, right? This is what we're fighting for, and this is what you can do. This is who we are, and this is how you can join. This is why we need you. Come join. So by banning gifts to lawmakers and getting money out of politics, we can restore trust in our democracy and ensure that it works for all of us. Join the movement, go to giftban.org, make those phone calls, sign up, and take more direct action. Right, so you just got to end with that. Here's who we are. Come join us. Let's get to work. These are three categories of classical rhetoric. We're going to go back to ancient Greek here. They sketched out public speaking in a pretty spectacular way a couple thousand years ago. So it's helpful to go back to the Greek. So these three terms are just things to consider as you're piecing together those three parts of a speech, those three different messaging points. You want to work these three into everything as much as you possibly can. It's good to have all three, and certain people will lean into one or two harder than the others just by your personality and who you are. So one, ethos. Your ethos is your credibility. It's your uh, grounding yourself in shared knowledge, in shared wisdom. So when you quote a famous person, you're establishing your ethos. When you give a title for yourself, when you're introduced or when you're speaking, you're establishing your ethos. Anything that you can do to kind of back up what it is that you're saying. Oftentimes, this comes from quoting there's kind of two pillars of the great speakers of our era and going back in time too, Constitution and Bible. That kind of just seems to be in our culture, the two pillars of establishing ethos. That's how most people do it. Think of Dr. King quoting Isaiah and then quoting the Declaration of Independence, in the same line, in the same paragraph. That type of kind of twin, relying on moral wisdom, on traditional moral documents, plus legal documents, constitutional documents, that kind of American ethos. If you kind of lead on those two pillars for ethos, you'll do quite well. But of course, there are others. And in different settings with different audiences, you want to keep in mind what will appeal to them. If you're talking to a room full of scientists, quote Einstein. If you're talking to a room full of painters, reference Picasso or somebody. If you're talking to a room full of playwrights, reference Shakespeare. So establish your ethos based off of who you are and of who you're talking to. Pathos. Pathos is your emotional appeal. Pathos often takes the form of stories. You want them to feel what you're saying. You want them to feel a certain way. If we're talking about democracy, you want them to feel a love for democracy. You want them to fall in love with what we can accomplish if we actually had real democracy. You want them to feel angry at corruption. You want them to feel angry at bribery, and you want them to feel angry. Sometimes in giving speeches, we shy away from anger. Just generally in society, we tend to do that. But it can be a very powerful thing in public speaking, especially because anger is often, not always, but often rooted itself in love. You're angry because somebody you love is getting hurt. You're angry because the planet you love is suffering and dying. You're angry because, something that you love is suffering. And so getting in touch with that in your crowd can be really helpful. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to cry, and it's okay to love. These are all very okay and encouraged things that through good public speaking, you can help guide people through. You can help them feel that anger, feel that sadness, feel that grief, and push through it till you get to that love and that action that they can take that is loving. Logos. Logos is logic. Use logic. It's a very good thing to use, right? Logic is extremely important. Logic can take your audience through a set of ideas that you want them to remember, that you want to convey. If corruption is legal, if anybody can use corruption to give money to politicians, and if that money leads to those politicians not or only paying attention to the people who give them money, then therefore the people are not heard, right? If we have corruption and corruption cannot coexist with democracy, then we do not have democracy until we make corruption illegal. Kind of have those simple, I think of them as equations, as almost mathematical formula. This plus this equals this minus that plus that equals that, right? Have those in your mind as you're writing your speech. Think through what is the logical train of thought that I'm trying to take people on. Corruption is legal. Corruption prevents solving our problems. If we can't solve our problems, we suffer. Corruption leads to suffering, right? That's a simple logical train of thought. And you want to establish those in your speech. You just want to kind of take people on a journey. Don't overcomplicate the logos. Sometimes people put in 26-step plans here. Don't do that. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, at most. And you just want to take people through that argument. Let's keep going. Before we get to stand, sorry, any thoughts or questions? And I'm going to pause the recording here. Stand. Standing is important. It's the first part of stand and deliver. You got to stand. So, first, of course, if you're not able to stand, people can deliver speeches sitting down. Of course, that's a real thing. But for those who are able to stand, most public speaking does require standing. The exceptions are if you're unable, if you're doing a panel discussion, sometimes an interview format will have you sitting, but most of the time you're going to be standing. First, stand naturally. Don't sway. Don't sway. This is one of the top mistakes people make when they speak publicly, is they kind of sway back and forth. Stand still, stand and deliver. Root your feet in the earth. Um, really, you're not moving your feet too much. Other parts of you are going to move, but your feet are going to stay the same. When you start swaying, frankly, people just kind of think that you have to go to the bathroom and they get distracted. There's something very subconscious about that we pick up on. Use your hands. Use your hands. Don't have your hands still by the side of your body the whole time. Be natural. Use your hands. It's hard to see on Zoom here, but I'm using my hands a little bit, making hand motions. There's a couple classic hand motions in public speaking. They call this the Bill Clinton thumb. I don't know if you can see this, but he used to always do this kind of thumb down, pointing with this, in various directions. There's the hate to reference the guy, but kind of the Trump sizing thing that he does with his hands, where you can get a sense of how big or small the words are that he's saying by how far apart his hands are. There's kind of the pointing into the crowd. There's all sorts of hand motions to make. Try some out in front of the mirror. We're going to watch a few of them today. Next time you see somebody speak publicly, notice their hands, notice what they're doing with them, and how they use their hands as an extension of the words that they're saying. The hands express an emotion. They back up what it is you're saying. They can be used to slow things down, speed things up. They can be used for all sorts of purposes when you're speaking. Control the microphone. This goes for bullhorn or microphone. If people can't hear what you're saying, or if your volume is changing dramatically, you've lost them. It's over. This is, again, one of the more common things that people do wrong. And when people do it right, most people don't even notice. The microphone is staying in the same place wherever you are. The microphone stays, 2 to 4 inches in front of your face. Don't put it too close. Please don't slobber on the microphone. Nobody likes that. They have to wash the whole thing out and it distorts the sound. It's really bad. Don't put it too far away because then you can't hear it. So do a sound check beforehand. Make sure you know what the sound is going to sound like. If you're unable to do a sound check because you're speaking for 3 minutes, an hour into a rally, just watch everybody before you. Notice where they're standing and how they're handling the microphone. Know if you're going to be, as Andrea wrote in the chat, if you're going to be at a podium, or if you're not going to be at a podium, is it going to be a handheld mic? Are they going to put a lapel microphone onto you? Are you going to have a microphone stand? Are you going to have to hold it yourself? Right? Know your setting, know where you are, and just be set up for success. If you have to hold the microphone, that means you don't have two hands to hold your speech, right? So you're going to have to figure that out. You're going to have to hold it in one hand while you hold the microphone in the other. If you have a podium, that solves a lot of problems. Your speech sits right there on the podium. The microphone is clipped in, and make sure that yep, exactly, Tom, right? Make sure that the microphone is pointed straight back into you. And don't be afraid to adjust the microphone before you start speaking. If the last speaker was a foot taller than you, that's going to make a big difference. Don't be afraid to adjust the microphone before you start speaking. And if you start speaking and you haven't adjusted the microphone, pause, take a second, adjust the microphone, continue speaking. That actually goes for everything. If you ever find yourself uncomfortable up there for whatever reason, you can't read your speech properly, the papers aren't folded the right way, whatever, take a second, fix it up, and do it. Yes, and Andrea, one time you did a press conference on your tippy toes because the person who spoke before you was about a foot taller than you. It does happen. Last note on standing. look up and look around. You have to look up, you have to look around. You cannot just look down and read off your paper. This is why it's really important to practice your speech beforehand so that you know the words well enough that you don't have to just read. You can look down, look up, deliver, look back down, look up, deliver, and so on. And when you're looking up, um, once you get really comfortable with public speaking, feel free to make eye contact with whoever you want to. Sometimes that can be really supportive if it's a friendly face that you know. But really, in the beginning, look around. Don't look at people. You want to be looking at people's foreheads or right over their forehead. And when you do that, everybody thinks you're looking at them. It's this really weird public speaking thing that happens where if you just stare an inch over everybody's head, they don't really know who you're looking at, and it just kind of looks like you're looking at everybody. And look around. Don't just keep looking up at the same person or the same area or the same direction. Look around. Be sure to work the whole room with your vision. People want to be seen while you're talking to them. So be sure to really scan the room. First, look up to the right. Next time, go to the left. Maybe go back to the left, go to the middle, go to the right, right? Just mix it up, mix it up. And that'll happen naturally as well because you'll pick up on reactions from the crowd that'll get your attention. Somebody in the back right will laugh, and so next time you'll look over there. Somebody on the front left will gasp a little bit, so you look over there. Somebody coughs in the middle, you look over there. So just go with it. Go with the flow of the crowd. Go with the energy that they're giving you, and just right above their heads. Don't make eye contact; it might freak you out. Don't do that till you're ready. Delivery, pace. Pace is crucial. Pace is one of the hardest skills to master. Oftentimes, we think we're talking way too slowly when we do public speaking, but that is the pace that you should be talking at. If it doesn't feel painfully slow at first, you are talking way too quickly. It should feel uncomfortable. It should feel different. It should feel slow. I do a lot of tutoring of bar and bat mitzvah kids. These are 12 and 13-year-old Jewish kids going for their rite of passage adulthood thing. And my God, they can churn through a 10-minute speech in 2 minutes if you let them because they're nervous. They're anxious. It's their first time speaking publicly. And so we do an exercise where we just keep going slower and slower and slower until it feels painful. And when it feels painful, that is likely the right pace that you should be going in. Did you notice that I slowed down from the previous slides to this slide? This is a public speaking pace. And part of handling your pace properly is working the pause. The pause allows the audience to sit and reflect. And that allows the speaker to gather the attention of the room. And people will lean in and they'll wait for whatever it is you have to say next, because it's so important that you're willing to pause for it. The pause is key. Do not fear the pause. Use the pause. Use the pause. And we're going to show some videos in a minute of the pause by the best pacer of our time, Angela Davis, and the best pauser of our time, Barack Obama, two of the greatest public speakers of the last 100 years. The Obama pause is something that's taught in public speaking courses now. It's like the Clinton thumb. The Obama pause has caught on as well. So we're going to listen to those in a minute. When you're delivering as well, Be your authentic self. This is the thing I think that you can't really teach in public speaking. This is something you have to develop internally. This is something that comes from within. Whoever you are, share that with the crowd. Don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself. Be yourself. If you're trying to be somebody else, it comes off as awkward. Has anybody here seen Josh Shapiro or Pete Buttigieg try to talk like Obama? It's awkward, isn't it? When they just try to copy that rhythm. You got to speak in your own rhythm. You have to be yourself. Don't try to be like somebody you've seen. Be yourself, right? These are all tools: pause, pace, write your speech, know your marks, know how to use your hands, know where to look. Those are all kind of things built up around your authentic self to help your authentic self come through and be effectively communicated. And then hit your lines. You know what your marks are. You know what your key marks are in your speeches. Hit them. Those are the words that you want people to leave with, right? What are this is a kind of a trick question, but what are the key words of MLK's "I Have a Dream" speech? I have a dream. And you know that because he hit those words when he was speaking. Those were the words that he wanted to make sure you left with. I have a dream. And then he'd go into the next clause. Long pause, next clause. And he'd end the next clause with, I have a dream, said uh, there's a pause before he says it in quick succession, but it hits you. He gets a little louder with it, right? Know what your lines are. Know the important lines in your speech. And when you write your speech out, annotate it. Make sure those lines are bolded. Underline them. Do whatever you need to do to signal to yourself that this is the key. Put a big line, a vertical line before and after it, so you know to pause before and after so that you hit your marks, right? Know what your key lines are, annotate your speech. For people who know how to read music, I'm not one of them, but I found that those people tend to do better with this. They understand kind of how to have a melody, a tune, high notes and low notes as you go through your speech. So think of your speech as a work of music almost. Kind of, where do you go up? Where do you go down? Where do you slow down? Where do you speed up? Where do you take that long pause and just look around the room? Yeah. One more thing about the pause too before we go to the video. Do not be afraid to use the pause for any reason whatsoever. If you mess up, stop and pause. Do not fill space with er, uh, wait a second, hold on, uh, don't do that. Pause, go silent, get your speech together, and go from there. Okay, let's do a video. I think we're going to start with Angela Davis here. Just a quick clip to show us a little bit of pace.
Okay, let me know if people can hear. Can people hear that?
An thunderous, resounding, united voice that we have no intention of stopping this fight until we have eradicated every single remnant of racism in this country. Until we have the war in Vietnam and the neo-colonialism in Africa. We are not going to stop fighting until every political prisoner is free and until all of the massive dungeons in this country are mere memories of a nightmare. Sisters and brothers, that is what the power of the people is all about.
That was just a quick clip there. Let's dissect that one really fast. I think it lagged a little bit on my end. I couldn't quite get the words. I don't know if other people heard that, but that's okay because the tune, the rhythm, the pace is what we were there for there. So did you notice how she was able to go up almost in a sing-songy way sometimes when she hit the word we? I think that was a key word for her, was to make it clear, we, this is where we're all in this together. And then how she was able to then kind of go through an example a little quicker and then come back out and hit that we note again, right? That pacing, that rhythm. Good use of the pause, good use of looking down, looking up. Anything else that we recognized here?
A lot of pathos.
A lot of pathos, right? Really made you feel something.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, you don't even need to hear the words, or at least for me, right? Just the rhythm of it gave off a lot of pathos, a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion. I feel for her speaking, over 50 years ago here with the audio technology of that time, but she does a good job of staying in line with the microphones that are on the podium. Back then, that was even more important and extremely hard to do. That's why a lot of old speeches sound a little off because no fault of the public speaker, but the microphone technology just wasn't what we have now. Okay, let's move on to the pauser in chief from a few years ago.
I just want to say when I was looking up clips for this, there was a lot of montages on YouTube of the Obama pause, but I tried to find one where you could see it in relation to other things that he's saying because it was just videos of the full, just him not speaking. Okay.
This is your victory. Now, I know you didn't do
Boom.
this just to win an election. I know you didn't do it for me. You did it because you understand the enormity of the task that lies ahead. But my main message is to the parents.
Give me a pause. Right, so in that last speech right there, did you see how long that pause was? You see that? He looked around the room. He took his sweet time, and everybody in the room leaned in and was ready to hear what he had to say because he said nothing. That is a masterful pause right there. And then you notice the hands too, right? He had the hand up in the air, just doing a little pointing thing. Right. Okay, let's keep going. Oops, sorry. Oh, back to the video.
It was just more. Do we want to keep watching some more?
Yeah, let's go one more.
Okay.
It's a phenomenal pause. I mean, just a phenomenal pause.
Of Trayvon Martin. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own. Among the fallen were also teachers,
Stop
men
there.
and women who devoted their lives.
Wow. Kids of their own, pause. That's what he wanted you to sit with right there. He wanted you to sit with that idea that these people were never going to have kids of their own, right? They were never going to live these full lives. And he made you sit with that idea for a few seconds. And you could see inside of him a little bit of pathos boiling up there, right? A little bit of emotion was conveyed through that pause. And so these tools can really help convey your message, convey the emotion, the logos, the thought, the information that you're trying to convey. That's why we're doing all these tools. Okay, let's keep going here. So grow. We've gone over write, stand, and deliver. Grow. This could be pretty hard for people, but you do have to watch yourself speak. You do. Nobody likes their own voice on recording. It's just the way it is. Everybody thinks they sound usually a little higher pitched than they actually are, is how we come off on recordings to ourselves. I'd be curious here if anybody thinks they sound too low for themselves when they hear themselves. But you do have to watch yourself. You do have to listen to yourself. You do have to give yourself feedback. It is extremely helpful. It's in fact the most helpful thing when it comes to this is just studying what you've done, analyzing it, and going, I went way too fast, or I stood oddly. Why was I? Look at how I am right now, by the way. On Zoom, when I speak publicly through Zoom, I lean to the left. I have no idea why I do this, but I do it every time I lean forward and to the left. And unless I'm watching myself, I don't notice that and remember to just sit up again. I'll always end up like this. No idea why. So watch yourself. You're doing things subconsciously. You're doing things that you're not aware of, and you're not going to be aware of them unless you see it, unless you study yourself. Notice your inflection points. Notice when you go up, when you go down, when you get loud, when you get quiet, when you talk way too quickly, and when you go at a good, solid pace. Practice in front of the mirror, practice on camera, practice in front of friends and family, and practice publicly. As you publicly speak, that's your practice. And if you're speaking at a rally, there's usually a video recording of it. You can watch yourself afterward, and it's very difficult to do. And I think now I'm going to embarrass myself and we're going to watch myself speak here, which I hate to do, but damn it, we're going to do it. And I don't think we found the video where I messed everything up, so I think I only messed a few things up in this video that we're going to watch so we can critique those. Ah, this one, yeah.
One wins you a vote.
1 second, sorry, I was.
This is not a democracy. This isn't close to a democracy. In a democracy, the majority rules. In a democracy, 50% plus one wins you a vote. But in Harrisburg, where this is not a democracy, and I see all the lobbyists walking by, I'm talking to you guys here. This is not a democracy. 6 gatekeepers manage this building. You need 4 votes to pass a bill. 4 votes makes a bill a law.
Give me a pause here, Andre.
Those 4 votes.
Ooh, so I'm wading through the awkwardness here with y'all. It's tough to watch yourself speak. But one thing I'm not doing well right here. Actually, let me just ask you all. What am I not doing well stance-wise?
Swain?
I am swaying, but that's actually, this is one of the exceptions to the swaying rule here. So this is in the Capitol Rotunda, right? In some settings, it can make sense where I'm working the room with my body here, but keeping my head on the microphone. So I have to sway my body in order to keep my head focused on the microphone so that I can look this way or that way. If I was holding the microphone, I would just turn my body and keep the microphone there. But in this setting, and I'm looking at people next to me, almost at a 90-degree angle, I kind of need to shift my whole body so I can stay in front of the planted microphone there. Tom, you're absolutely right. I am so hunched. I'm completely hunched over. This microphone should be about an inch higher up in the air so that I can be standing straight up. I'm hunched over in order to lean into that microphone. But yeah, so when you're working the room though, that movement of the body, if the microphone is still, because you just want to keep the microphone angled properly. That's your key. You want to be talking into it. And because this is a setting where people are moving around, and I'm even addressing a group of people who are moving through the rotunda, right? I'm talking to this, I saw a pack of lobbyists walking through as I was talking, and so I started talking at them, knowing the setting. Also, stance-wise, my hands are terrible here. I'm hunched, my hands are awkward. If I remember correctly, I'm probably very dehydrated in this picture, which kind of makes my whole body slump a little bit. And that's how I tend to be in the Capitol for anxiety reasons in general. I don't like to eat or drink when I'm in that building. So I tend to get a bit tired pretty quickly, and that shows with kind of lazy hand motions. My hands are kind of coming up an inch and then falling right back down. Be sure to eat and drink when you speak. Yep, don't be afraid to stop and take a sip of water. Yep. Yeah, Tom, absolutely right. I'm moving dynamically. I should have probably just grabbed the microphone right out of the holder so that I'm not doing what Whitney pointed out, which is that full body sway, right? You want to avoid that if you can. And if I was holding the microphone, I could just turn instead of full body movement there, which would have been better, absolutely. I'm also going off the cuff at this point, so there's no reason for the podium. I don't need it to hold a speech. I could just kind of take it and start moving a little bit, or at least turn my body, you know. And I am sorry, you don't want to then take the microphone and start walking with it in this setting. Some settings that's perfect. Stand-up comedy, they do that all the time. In the Capitol Rotunda, you want with a podium, you want to kind of stay still there. You don't want to move too far from your mark. Any other thoughts here? This is a rally on the rules within the building, within the legislature. So that's what I'm talking about, right? I know my setting, I know my audience. That's the, yep. Well, thank you, Tom. I'll take the pathos. Let's keep going.
People, 6 gatekeepers, the committee chair, the House and the Senate, the majority leader, the House and the Senate, Speaker of the House, Senate President. Those 6 people have to approve those 4 votes for a bill to pass. There's 253 members here, but only 6 people matter. And if any one of those 6 is opposed, the bill dies.
Okay, I'll point out, that was a hand motion at the end. I think I nailed that hand motion there. Kind of any one of the blah, blah, blah. I'm making a point while conveying the number 1. Any other feedback? And please be direct and brutal. Right. And that was just a quick clip as well. I think that was about a 15-minute speech total when delivered. And so there was an arc to it. There was some storytelling built in to kind of convey the nightmare and the dream. Well, thank you, Sarah. Okay, so that's grow. Let's keep going. Oh, sorry, Sally. Oh, and Andrea.
I think they were good pauses, and I think it was pretty exciting. I think it was pretty good. I think it was exciting. I think it was good. I think you got your point across. I think it was good.
Thank you.
It was emotional, pathos. I think it was good. I would have been proud.
Oh. And I'll say, usually there's a hesitancy, speaking personally, of kind of letting the anger show. I try to kind of remain calm and approach public speaking that way. But some of the best ones, feedback-wise, are when that anger is out there, when the emotion is fully on display, when the pathos is out there, because in that anger, then the love can come out of that, right? I'm angry because my friends are getting hurt. I'm angry because I'm getting hurt, right? Yes, Tom, you're absolutely right. I am so frickin' high pitched when I get angry sometimes. And that those high note endings, you gotta switch off of those at some point. You can't, and in general, right, you can't just sit in the nightmare. You have to get to the dream. You have to get to the call to action. You have to get to the positive call to action. Even eulogies have a positive note at the end for the most part, right? You remember the person fondly and carry their blessings with you through your life or something like that. You have to have that uplifting call to action, or else it comes off as whiny. It comes off as just somebody complaining and venting. And you are responsible for where you leave the audience. You're taking them on a journey with you, and you have to drop them off somewhere responsibly. And that responsible ending place has to be some action, some high note, something uplifting of some kind. Yeah. Andrea.
I was just gonna say, I thought you did a good job of staying on message and like focused. I know it's a short clip, but you're speaking at a rally with fair districts, right? And so like their messaging's a little bit different than ours, but I thought you did a good job of identifying who holds the power in Harrisburg and just keeping that message succinct. I know a lot of us are going to speak at rallies that typically have different messaging than we do, and I thought this is a good example of how you stay nonpartisan, very clear about who holds the power. And yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, here. Right, hit your messaging marks. One problem that some people do when they speak publicly too is you try to sound like everybody else at the rally. You try to just kind of mirror what other people are saying, but you're there to say what you have to say. Don't ever forget that, right? And if you're being brought into a space that's a little different than what you think you would be used to, lean into that, right? Know your audience and don't piss them off. I mean, do if that's your goal, but try not to. But also be your authentic self and deliver your authentic message and deliver, hit the marks, hit your messaging marks. Don't be afraid of that. And also, a lot of the time, crowds will surprise you. You may go and speak to a crowd that you think is very different than you, and they may just eat up what you have to say. And even if they disagree with you, they'll respect your authenticity. They'll respect that you believe in what you're saying. And that shines through a lot. So let's workshop it. First, I guess, any questions or thoughts before we just go into a quick workshop?
I have a question. What do you mentioned like hearing things from the crowd and looking up in response to those, but like how can you tell what the vibe of the crowd is and if what you're saying is resonating?
Great question. So some things are going to be obvious, right? Sometimes people will be smiling back at you. They'll clap when it feels appropriate to clap, or they'll make some sort of noise of agreement, yep, yep, uh-huh, whatever it might be coming from the crowd. Sometimes it can be absolutely shocking and almost devastating. And that's usually when you're doing it the best, is when people just have this almost blank look on their face. This almost look of deep internal reflection that you've really given them something to think about, and they are on the journey with you. It's that look that people have when they're in the middle of a um, when they're in the middle of a movie that they really like. Just that kind of like, and when you see a sea of those faces looking at you, it can almost feel weird, right? They're really with you. They're completely locked into what you're saying and doing, and they've almost gone blank, and that can be a little stunning, a little shocking at first. So don't panic if you see that. It's good. Don't cut that tension. Don't cut that gaze, that attention span. Lean into it. Keep it going. And yeah, as Jason wrote in the chat, if tomatoes are flying, that's a clearest sign that you've messed something up completely. Either they hate you or you're speaking in a tomato warehouse. Either way, get out of there. Just get out of there as fast as you possibly can. Um, yeah, yeah. And then also, there's some other things that are odd that you'll just encounter. And you just have to kind of figure them out in the middle of your speech and roll with it. So I spoke in Philly when it was cold out this winter, and it was a big crowd at City Hall. It was a big crowd. It was a lot of people I didn't know, and I didn't really even know all the organizers who had put the event together. I just knew the ones that had invited me. And there was somebody standing kind of in the first row, a little off to the side. And basically, as soon as I started talking, maybe 30 seconds in or a minute in, he started making two sets of signals, kind of wrap it up, this kind of thing, this kind of thing, and then also cold signals going brr. I mean, literally like cartoonish signaling to me that it's time to go faster, wrap it up because he's cold. And I had to think to myself, is this an organizer? Is this somebody who's actually keeping track of the run of the program? And it took me a few seconds to figure out, no, this is just some random guy who forgot to bring a jacket to an outdoor protest in February. And him being cold is no reason for me to skip my entire speech that, 1,000 people are here to hear. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Plus, there's five more speakers after me. So I don't know what this guy wants me to do here, but he should just go to the coffee shop next door and warm up, right? That's not my problem at that point. And I'm not going to ruin the whole speech because some random guy just forgot a jacket, right? That's absurd. So people in the crowd will do things like that. And you just kind of have to roll with it. Just keep in mind, does this person actually, do they work here? Are they an organizer? Do they do anything to put this together? Or is this just somebody who wants to go get lunch? And if it's the latter, just ignore it and keep moving. Okay, so Tom wrote in the chat here. So how do you get to be a speaker? So you get to be a speaker by being invited. Do not ask to be a speaker at somebody else's event. That's a pretty awkward thing to do. They'll let you know if they want you to speak. You can say, hey, if there's ever an opening, I'd love to speak, but don't say, hey, there's a rally on Thursday, can I please speak? Unless you have something very urgent to share. But for the most part, it's better to be humble with speaking invitations and to be invited to do it rather than ask them to do it. There are often open mic sections at these types of rallies, and that's a time to just go for it. If there's an open mic section, just go for it. And it's sometimes better to try to go second or third rather than first when it comes to the open mic. You don't want to be the tone setter sometimes there, or do if you're bold. But yeah, yeah. So you really just kind of get invited to speak, and if you go to a bunch of rallies and you meet people, eventually you'll be invited to say something. If they, are liking what you're doing, or if you're planning the rally, right? If you're organizing a rally, it's a good way to get yourself behind the microphone, or at least be able to invite somebody else that you like to speak as well. Any other questions or thoughts? Anybody here speaking soon? Writing a speech? Want to go over something?
I am going to be speaking at Deluzio's office next week, and it's only 3 minutes, and it's for single payer healthcare. And I'm just going to tell, it's a pathos story. I'm just going to tell my story, because there are 4 other people there, and each of us has a story, has something to tell. We each have, we have our roles. So my role is specifically to tell my financial burden due to the healthcare system. So that's my role. But I will admit I've done public speaking before, so I'm not completely new to it. I don't love doing it, but I've gotten pretty used to it. So and I know my story pretty well. So I don't know, but I am definitely going to write it down, and I'm going to try to video myself. But I'm going to be honest, I'm going to definitely practice the pauses, like you said, because I think that will help, because I talk fast and I know that I do. And my dad always said I had a voice that no man would ever marry, because nobody would want to wake up to that ever. And so I hate to hear my own voice. So it's going to be painful to hear it, but I know that I have to do it because nobody else can tell my story like I can tell my story. It's my story and it needs to be heard. So I think it's an important story to tell. So I'm going to get out and do it. And I know that I've tried writing things down before in the past, but I never stick to anything that I write, and I end up talking off the cuff anyway because I'm a talker. So I'm going to try to write it down so that I can get the timing right, and I'll do the pauses, and I'll go from there, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I have to do 3 minutes. That's what I'm stuck with.
Sally, you got this, right? And just to comment on a few
Yeah.
things you said, right? Nobody can tell your story like you. Everybody here has something to share. Everybody here has a voice to share it. And you're the only person who can deliver the message that you have to deliver. That is a fact. You must speak because we need to hear what you have to say, and you're the only one who can say it.
I wish I could send somebody else out there to do it. And I do have a rally on the 31st that I'm putting on, so I'm gonna have to speak at that, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, I'll have to do that too. But
And writing the speech is going to be really helpful to keep your pace appropriate. When we start going off the cuff, even when we have written remarks, that's because our pace got out of control. And at that point, stop,
Mhm.
pause, get back to your remarks, refocus, go from there, right? Just anytime you find yourself going off the cuff, it's because your pace, your mouth was working faster than your eyes could read the paper. So you just got to slow it down, pause, go.
As usual.
Hey, that's life. That's life. I'm going to put you on the spot for one grand statement, and then we're going to close it out here.
Oh no.
You're going to
Okay.
tell your healthcare story. What is the opening line that sets up the shared values that you have with everybody else in the room? What's the opening line? What's your main thesis statement?
Because of our healthcare system. No, that's not it. Okay. I have brain cancer, and because we have a privatized healthcare system, I've lost everything financially.
Boom.
Pause.
There it is. There it is. And nobody should lose everything because they get sick.
No.
There it is, right? You've created this
Yeah.
basic value statement right in the beginning. You're hitting it hard. Well done, Sally.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I hope that was okay for me to
Yeah.
put you on the spot there.
Oh, no, it's fine.
It's
Yeah.
it's 1:02. I'm going to close us out here with a few closing notes, Andre, then I'll kick it to you. But everybody, we are happy to help workshop speeches. Send them over as you write them up. We're happy to help review video if you want. Also, Sally, one more note. If it's super awkward to hear your own voice in the video, watch yourself on mute the first time. You're going to learn some things. Plus, you might start giggling at yourself and the fact that you're watching yourself on mute, and that'll give you a little more courage to then turn the volume on. But I found that to be helpful to just start on mute, and then it just makes it a little easier to do that next step. And then we are going to post this recording. Please do send it around. And we're also working on a messaging document for March on Harrisburg. So when you're speaking as March on Harrisburg, just some really key points to hit in good order. And Andrea, what did I forget there? Oh, wow, you actually annotated this.
I did. And I had my little sister do it too as an exercise.
Oh,
But so yeah, I took Michael did a speech recently for Indivisible. And I took it, my sister and I, and we, highlighted the parts that are ethos, pathos, logos. So we're gonna send that out. And then we also have this messaging guide, and there's still a few things we're putting in there, but basically it has just some of the key like MOH talking points, our, the fact we're nonpartisan, statewide, what we focus on, main campaigns, our tactics, right? All stuff. This is all stuff that would establish credibility and people know what we do. And then we also kind of have some sample messaging points here too. Some gift ban talking points as well. I know some people have talked about wanting some help when talking about the gift ban, and then some other resources as well. So we have this short guide to help people if, when they're speaking as a member of March on Harrisburg.
excellent. Andre, can you go back to that speech really fast? The one that you marked up? And thank you for putting this together and go all the way to the top. I just want to give an example of writing in your own voice. These first 3 sentences, this is not how you write, right? This is not how you would write an article in a book or anything. Democracy is when we come together to solve our collective problems, period. When we encounter each other, care for each other, and act with responsibility and service, period. When the will of the people is the law of the land, period. Right? That's not how somebody writes a book or an article in a newspaper, but that's how I talk. And I like to, this is like rambling rabbi format. I know how to write for myself. I'll just kind of throw out 3 quick clauses without any connective tissue between them. That's just how I speak. So know how you speak, know your own rhythm, and it may not match up with anything that you've ever read on paper, but people speak differently than they write. So write in a way that you can speak those words and that they feel comfortable. I'll close us out with that. Everybody here, find your voice. You have a voice. A lot of you have already found it or are finding it. And let's stay in touch. Please ask any follow-up questions. Thank you for coming out on a Wednesday at lunch, and have a good rest of the day.